What up, YouTube? JayRwho back in the Get Motivated Studios with another video. So recently, I had dropped a video talking about why you shouldn't do business with friends and family, and little things that happen that tears the business apart. And then recently, I had came across this video of Maino and Adam discussing Math Hoffa's podcast falling apart. I'm assuming that the reason it fell apart is for the same reasons that I mentioned in my video. You know, everybody kind of getting jealous, everybody kind of feeling like they want more, they want to be the star, didn't have the same mindset. Some people lazy, some people, you know, wasn't consistent, all those little things. But I promise you, what I think happened here is come to fall out over money. I almost can guarantee that. Everybody wants to feel like the star, and everybody wants to make all the money. Couldn't come up with an agreement, and I guarantee that's what happened. But anyways, let's get to this video and see if we could dissect what happened here.
It's interesting to me because, we've all kind of watched Math Hoffa going through his issues with his podcast and stuff, but he at one point, I guess, had this big deal on the table with Revolt and basically said no to it because he wanted to keep grinding on his own independent hustle. And then I'm not counting him out or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure that he's going to be able to figure out how to keep his shit good and everything, but it feels like he's kind of dealing with a bunch of the consequences of maybe trying to stay independent, whereas you took a more corporate route.
Right. And sometimes that's not. Yeah. Sometimes you take out the soul of something.
Yeah.
You take out what makes it special. I should have probably never did that deal. And when they.
Yeah, so that's the thing. When you start something and something is working, it's usually working because it feels genuine, it feels natural, and that's why people mess with you. When you start changing things up because you start making a little money and all that, that's when businesses start to fail and fall apart. It's like food spots. Have you noticed when mom and pop shops, when they first start opening up, the food is bomb. But then when they start to grow and get bigger, the quality starts to go down, and it loses everything that the main reason why people was messing with them in the first place. So keep that in mind. Always be genuine and authentic, and don't change. Do what got you there, and keep on doing it. All right, let's get back.
Say every deal ain't a good one, or all money ain't good, and it's not because it was a bad place or they was bad people, but just because it took out what made it special. And then I changed at that point.
It's like the same story that we have heard a billion times of rappers, where it's like when you're putting out your own music and you're getting to go do collabs with whoever, it's fun. And then you sign that big deal, and all of a sudden the label wants you to hold back all your music and only put out this one project, and they want to control who you work with. And you always hear a rapper say that's when the fun got sucked out of it.
That's when the fun is gone. That's when the what came natural. It becomes a business.
Yeah.
And sometimes something that's organic, it's fun, it's free, it's flowing. But then you do a deal, and now it's a business.
Yeah.
And now it's schedule. Now it's wait. No, we can't do that. You gotta have the rollout. Everything has to be lined up. Can't just put the music out no more, Maino. You gotta set it up. This has to be online. We're doing press, so it becomes a business.
No, 100%. I mean, it was wild to see the way that the situation with Math kind of went down, because
so he don't have his podcast no more at all.
He still has it, but he doesn't have that space. He was doing it out of that barber shop, and then part of the allure of it from the beginning was that he had this whole crew of his homies.
He don't got that space. He don't got the barbershop. Well, I got the hottest barbershop in LA. So Math Hoffa, if you out here and you need a space to do, your content, you need a space in LA, I got it. Players Lounge Barbershop, 7364. I'll give you all the space you need. I ain't gonna be greedy like your partners. I know how to work with people. You know, this is one of our, how you see it. You see it, Players Lounge Barbershop, JayRwho. Let's get back.
who are in the room, and it kind of went left with like the vast majority of them, where a couple of them branched off and they started the Bag Fuel podcast and shit like that. And it's like, when you hear the stories from them, it's such a similar experience that I've kind of been through with some of my ex-hosts and everything. But like at one point, I guess he had months where he made 200K off of YouTube. And then certain people around him, who are the other guys on camera, they're looking at that and they're feeling like they deserve to be, compensated adequately.
Yep, just like I thought. They saw that plate roll out. They saw that dinner plate roll out. And they was hungry. They saw the dinner plate roll out. They hungry. They said, why is your plate look like that? And I'm over here with this Brussels sprouts and, chicken tenders and shit. Why you eating filet mignon and you got all this, tomahawks and all that, but I'm over here eating these chicken strips and Brussels sprouts. I want my plate to look like your plate. Even though I didn't help put this plate together, I didn't do as much as I should have to put this plate together, but I want to eat that same plate you eat. That's what happens every time.
And I guess Matt had a different perspective on it. Also, he's the one who's having to take care of the bills. He's the one paying for the space and everything like that. So it's like, for sure.
See, that's what I'm talking about. When you do business with people, they never realize the things that you have to do to keep the business afloat. They don't know about the sacrifices that you have to do, the bills you got to pay, and everything that goes behind it. All they do is show up, but they want to get compensated the same as the one who's eating the most, when they ain't even put in the same amount of work as the rest of it, as he did. But they want to eat the same, but they don't want to, put in the same work. Happens every time and never fails. If you want to eat like me, you better prepare the food just as much as I prepare it.
Sure, like, when you've got a bunch of guys who, not to be derogatory towards them, but like haven't really seen like that level of success. Right. And then all of a sudden they're trying to figure out how this works. How do we split this evenly? How do we make sense of this in a fair way? Right. It's just almost inevitable. That's just not going to really work out.
Kind of like all of them had an issue over the bread.
Yeah, largely, I think, and that's like, certain people, they're seeing him with this formula. It's like you see your homie selling drugs and you're like, well, shit, I want to sell drugs too. You see, I guarantee that everybody who ever like went to the studio with Dr. Dre then started rapping and figured out they were going to sign their own artists. So they're going to, it's like everybody sees the hustle. They want to try to mimic it or recreate it. But like the beauty of the Math Hoffa thing at a certain point felt like a real solid group of homies that all had been friends for such a long period of time. And almost instantaneously, the money and the success just kind of strips away the connection from them.
Yeah, we see that often.
Yeah.
A couple will go on
I told you, every time. You get a group of solid friends and individuals that come in and have this idea to do something great, and it can be great, and as soon as the money gets involved, now everybody wants to be the star. Everybody wants to be compensated the same. Now everybody wants to, be the man. They want to start doing their own shit. They don't know how to play their part. That's the problem. Everybody wants to be the boss. Everybody wants to be the one that shines. Everybody wants to be the one with all the money. And that's why I don't think doing business with friends is a good idea, because it happens every time, but there are some instances where things do go right. Those are the people that know how to play their part. Everybody plays their position, and we all can eat. But you got them selfish people that they want to be the boss, they want to be in control, and they want to have all the money. And it happens all the time.
A reality show and then break up.
No, yeah, exactly.
Like it's groups start off in the street together, grind, get on, blow up, and then break up.
Yeah. Definitely.
So it happens.
Yeah. It's easy to stay tight with people when nobody experiences like an outsized amount of success.
Right. But sometimes what's special too though, like the area. right? I think what made his show good too was the barbershop.
Exactly, yeah.
So I don't know exactly, is he still doing something now?
He's still doing it. He did like a dope BG interview the other day, but they filmed it in a regular podcast studio, which is like, now it's gone from the barbershop with all his homies.
That was a vibe.
Yeah, it was just something about
sometimes that vibe is the area, the location. That was a vibe because I had did an interview over there, and then I popped up when Ice with Vezo was in there. So yeah, that was a vibe. You sat in your own barber chair. That was a dope setup.
Definitely. And I mean, part of the other thing about it, not to get too like inside baseball, is that I feel like that shit blew up during the pandemic. And Math was kind of early with a few of these interviews. You know, he had Fat Joe, and that was a huge interview. He had 21 Savage, and that was a huge interview.
Huge, yeah.
And now it's like there's so many more people doing content that some of those interviews wouldn't really necessarily be as big as they were at that time. But I feel like he just kind of like skyrocketed into the conversation with the Joe Buddens and the academics, et cetera.
Yeah, he did.
But it was almost kind of premature because he hadn't necessarily built enough of a foundation to support that, you know? And so then it's tough when you're relying on guests because you got to keep it going.
That's the problem with and I think it's either here's the thing, it's either you relying on guests or you saying the most obnoxious, disrespectful, to bring, either way.
And Math's not really that guy. You know, Math doesn't want to have a
Right.
off
That's
of
what I'm
shitting
saying.
on somebody. You know?
Right, that's what I'm saying. He ain't on that. So it's either one of the two on the internet. So the guys that don't have the relationships to get guests are usually the guys that's saying the most outlandish things. You know, again, true or not, just saying the most, oh, suck my dick, this and that. Like, this is crazy. So you read it and it's just like, damn. So, yeah.
That's why when you look at the people who've really been successful, Joe Budden, sitting down with a bunch of people he's cool with. Early on, it was just his close friends, kind of branches out over time to become people that he's really like employing to do the podcast thing. But he kept it pretty simple. It's not guest-based.
It's not. Every now and then he'll have a guest on it.
Right, yeah. But when he does, it's just like adding fuel to it. It's not like the skeleton of it is all about just him talking to the homies, academics in his house by himself. He does interviews, but they're just kind of sprinkles on the top of it or whatever. Vlad is just him in a room. Right. He gets his guests. It is what it is, you know? And it's like when you see somebody skyrocket off of just the guests, it's like either you're Shannon Sharp, who apparently is going to be able to just get the biggest guests for all the time because he's so beloved at this point, or Joe Rogan, who can just literally get whoever he wants. But yeah, it can be a tough thing.
So because you don't know who they watching for. They watching it for you, or they watching it to see the guests.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's enough of that video. But it proved my point. Like always, when money starts getting involved, things start falling apart. People have egos. Everybody want to be the boss. Look, man, y'all just gotta have to learn how to bring to the table what you're good at, and know your position. And stop trying to be a boss, because everybody can't be a boss. There's certain characteristics that you need in order to be a leader and a boss. Not everybody have those characteristics. So you need to put your ego aside, know what you bring to the table and what you're good at, and play your role. And everything will succeed. You know what I mean? It's like, would you rather make, and then that whole thing of people branching off, once they do I want to do my own thing, this and that. So would you rather make $1 million all to yourself, or be a part of something that can grow to 100 million and get your 20% of that 100 million, 50% of that 100 million? I mean, come on, man. It's common sense. But you guys are too much of this whole I want to be the boss thing, that you can't put your ego aside to really get the money. You know what I mean? Just bring your talents and what you're good at, bring it to the table, everybody play their role and we can all eat. You know what I mean? Not everybody has to, be a boss. I mean, we see it over and over again. We would think people would learn by now, but they just don't. That's why I only mess with a certain few that have the same mindset as me, same mindset as I do. And if I ever do business with them, I already know what kind of page we're on. We're going to get contracts together. We're going to, it's going to be paperwork. You get this percentage. This is what you got to do. And I get this percentage. And this is what I got to do. So everything is laid out on the table because we don't want none of those mishaps. You know what I mean? I know what my worth is. They going to know what their worth is. And we're going to come with an agreement of how much who gets what. But if you don't put in as much work as me and you don't, bring that much to the table, you're going to get paid accordingly, period. You don't get paid for just showing up. Everybody out here gets paid accordingly. They don't get just paid just to show up. That's out. So either you become an asset to what I got going or you can kick rocks. You got to put that ego aside because I don't mess with nobody that got egos. If you got an ego and you can't realize that you're not a boss and you're a worker, then you got to go because everybody ain't made for this shit. All right. Well, I hope you guys learned something. Hope this this video kind of get you thinking when you're trying to do a business with somebody and get you to understand that not everybody's built the same. But JayRwho is out.